What's up YouTube, Kristo here. Got a video for you. Gonna do something different right before my final video for my fall 2015 picks. Just to kind of change up the pace. I've been doing a lot of reviews, like way more than I usually do. So I thought I'd do something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I kind of see it as fun, something different. I'm gonna do a video that I'm gonna call 5 niche houses I'm just not into anymore. Basically, I'm going to talk about 5 niche houses that at one time I really liked, perhaps even loved, but now just kind of leave me unfulfilled, uninterested, have just totally lost any, interest in them. There's just nothing there for me anymore for one reason or another, which I will discuss. Now, I'm not going to do these in any order. It's not like number 5 to number 1 or 1 to 5. No specific order. I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to list them, say why I've lost interest. And also, as usual, this is not meant to target anyone. It's not meant to specifically, point out one person or one reviewer that really likes this house or anything like that. Nothing of the sort. We're all entitled to our own opinions. As long as you do it tastefully and not hateful, I think, there's nothing wrong with it. So nothing directed at anyone here. So the first house I'm going to do is an easy one. I mentioned this house quite recently in my fragrance picks for fall, and even mentioned that it gets a lot of hate. The first house I'm going to go for is Bond number 9. It's a real easy target, bit of a lame duck in the niche world. My first introduction to them was probably about 5 years, maybe a little bit more than 5 years ago. And a few members of the fragrance community from New York City, Frank and Al, were very kind and sent me over a huge niche sample set because I was having so many problems tracking down niche fragrances to sample in Indonesia, where I used to live. And because they lived quite close to and had good connections with the people at the Bond store, they sent me like 35 bonbons or something. As grateful as I was and am, and I found some really fantastic fragrances from the house. What they do now, it just kind of bores me. And even then, of the 35 samples that they sent, from their fragrance, pretty much their entire fragrance catalog from 5 years ago, there were only maybe 6 or 7 that I really liked. That said, of those 6 or 7 that I liked then, I still pretty much like all of them today. I do think Wall Street's great. I think Cooper Square is an excellent fragrance. I love that so much. It's a really great classic masculine. I really like Silver Factory. I love New York for Him. I love New York for All. I think those are great. It's just, they must be up to nearly 100 fragrances now. And I've tried pretty much everything they have released, from the sample set until now. I've tried pretty much everything they've released. Nothing really interests me. I think I would be hard to pick 10 fragrances that I would say that I even like. A lot of them are really boring, really simple, very little creativity goes into them. The retail price is absolutely incredible. It's I believe $250 US for 100 mil, which is about 400 Canadian dollars now with the terrible exchange rate. But even then, I wouldn't pay anywhere near 250 US any day of the week. If the dollar was on par, there's no way. There's a few fragrances that I would like if they were at, the kind of $100 and $125 for 100 mil, which you can find them for now and again. But just, for the price, for how boring most of them are, for how uninteresting. Often a lot of people even say that they're blatant copies of other fragrances, but that's a whole other video. So yeah, Bond Number 9, whatever they release from now on, I just have no interest in it, and it's a house that I would say I am completely done with. So the next one, kind of a fragrance house in the niche world that kind of goes hand in hand with Bond Number 9, Creed. And definitely I have to say there are some Creed fragrances that I think are beautiful. Actually, my favorite Creed fragrance is, I would say without even question, Royal Oud. I think Aventus is good, but I think that's it. It's just good. And all this like batch conspiracy and batch variations just makes me want to rip my hair out and scream. It drives me nuts. I've tried at least 3 different batches and they smell so similar. Maybe there's tiny little differences, but I think a lot of it is just, you know, the power of suggestion, or perhaps all their batches have spoiled and therefore smell slightly different. But either way, Aventus is nice, and that's kind of it. I really like Himalaya. Actually, I would say after Royal Oud, Himalaya is probably my favorite Creed. And then after that, it's kind of like, you know, they're okay, but even for I believe the discounted price, you can get 120 mil new in box in the gray market for about 120 to 150 US dollars. Some of them, not all of them. And I don't think I would even pay that for a lot of them. Really liked Green Irish Tweed, but I don't think I would drop $150, honestly, on 120 mil, because I think there are things out there that are better, that do a better job, you know, at kind of a fresh, leathery fragrance. And this new kind of vaulting and unvaulting and the whole what's going on with Royal Mayfair. People were going wild for it when it was called Windsor, and everybody, like Creed, would kind of open the vault and let a few bottles out here and there of Windsor, and then they released it as Royal Mayfair, and everybody went, yes! And then the next day it was just forgotten about. Then everyone was selling their decants and their partial bottles. I finally got to smell it, and I like it. It's nice, but I believe it is 450 US dollars in Canada at retail price. It is just absolutely out of this world expensive. Like, I would never ever pay anything even close to that. It's okay, but it's so expensive. Definitely one thing I took advantage of, or took for granted, I should say, living in Indonesia. You used to be able to get authentic, completely authentic 120 mil testers without a cap for about $70 to $90. And at one time I owned at least 8 Creed fragrances, and then either just used them, decanted them out, swapped them, or sold them because I just didn't really have much interest in them. Moved to Canada, and they're so expensive here. Again, like trying to get them even in the gray market from the United States, with shipping costs, with the dollar exchange rate, it's just not worth it. I got to try the new Princess Oud a couple weeks ago at one of the high-end department stores in Toronto, and it was just like laughable. It was just kind of like sweet fruitiness with like this little tiny pinprick of oud in the background, like a very feeble, pathetic attempt at kind of creating a female oud fragrance from the house. And there's these rumors of Aventus for women. It's just, you know, I'm done with it. No matter what the house comes out with, I just have no interest in what they're doing anymore. Next, another fragrance. I was actually really into this house. I really loved them, and it was, I don't know why, but it was one of the early niche houses, like when niche was coming into the YouTube community. I don't really know what it was. I think perhaps the kind of unique bottles, but Montale is another fragrance house that I'm just completely done with. I don't care what they do anymore. They're releasing just it seems to have lowered a little bit recently, but there was a time when it seemed like they were releasing a new perfume every week. It was ridiculous. And I think as well, what kind of hurts is that the first like 3 or 4 fragrances I tried from Montale, I really liked and still do really like. Blue Amber, Black Oud, Red Oud, Patchouli Leaves. Those were like literally the first 4 fragrances I tried from Montale, and I really liked them. And I started getting more and more into them, and just like nothing I found is even remotely interesting. The fragrances are so minimal and simple and cheap smelling, like synthetic cheap. Even if they have a nice opening, in 10 minutes it's just completely flat and fallen apart. I've sampled probably, since like the original 4 that I like, I've probably tried 30 or 40 Montales, and the only one that really stands out is Intense Cafe, and that's it. Like the rest are just abominations. I got to try a few of the ones that I really wanted to try before: Nepal Oud, Oud Musk. There's a couple, I don't even remember the names. There's so many of them, and they just keep coming out. But they're just total disappointments. There's nothing original. There's nothing different. It's just kind of like oud with one note change. It's pretty much, all they do anymore, and I'm just really sick of it. Recently, though, the prices have seemed to have gone down dramatically in the gray market, at least for some of them. You can get some of the 100 mils now for about 50 to 60 bucks, whereas before it was like 150 bucks, and there's just no way I would ever consider paying that for any Montale fragrance. So number 4, I'm gonna go, I'll pick this one next for a certain reason. My 4th house that I am just done with is actually a house I was never really that into in the first place, but a few fragrances just really, really grabbed me. So I kind of have this interest. Number 4 is by Kilian. It's kind of like this high-end or, upper middle end niche fragrance house that try to come off as like kind of dark and gothic, but at the same time kind of classy and high-end and stuff. If you've seen the presentation before, and I'm sure most of you have, it's basically like a little 50 ml bottle inside this big black coffin that has a key. And I actually had one. I had a bottle of A Taste of Heaven, which was the first fragrance I tried from Kilian, and I did really like it. And I have to say, I don't mind it still. But I ended up selling it, and when I was going to sell it, the guy that bought it from me, he said, do you still have the tags and everything? I said, yeah. So I kept the tags inside the coffin. You can actually lift out the little velvet tray. And I pulled it out, and I got out the tags just to check. And I remember kind of going, didn't realize you could actually take it apart. So I actually took apart the coffin, not like breaking it, but just like disassembling it. And it's actually just like really cheap plywood, and it's like cheap polyester lining. Like the coffin, it kind of looks nice, but when you actually look at it and see what it is, it's really cheap and poorly made. Like it probably costs like a couple dollars to make the entire coffin, and they're charging like $250 for 50 mil. It's just excessive, like way too much. If it was like Serge Lutton's prices, like $2 a mil, $3 a mil, I might grab 1 or 2 Kilians, but just no way I'm paying for that ridiculously cheap presentation. There's a few fragrances from the house, like I mentioned, A Taste of Heaven, Straight to Heaven I liked as well. A boozy, patchouli, woody fragrance, kind of unique. Even when I got the sample set when I was newly into niche and kind of everything was, blowing my mind, I was really unimpressed by quite a few of the Kilians. The Love and the Liaisons Dangereuses or whatever it is. Just really boring, uninspiring, generic, bland, just all of those kind of, mediocre adjectives you can think of. Since then, man, they're just rolling them out there. They're doing flankers, which is something you rarely see in a real niche house. Just all these limited editions and all of these special presentations. And honestly, since Rose Oud, I've tried very little. I've tried a few, like in the department store, just kind of, yeah, okay, next. Yeah, okay, next. And just whatever, they're just nothing. It's such a overpriced house that basically just tries to push themselves as like this luxury brand that's actually just really cheap. The bottles, I have to say, I do like the bottles. The bottle construction is so much better than the actual coffin. I think the coffins are just tacky, cheaply made, horrendously gaudy things that people like to put out and say, ooh, look, I spent $250 on perfume, to their friends when they come around. So yeah, totally done with by Kilian. So the last one, keeping it for last, perhaps because it'll be the most controversial, but another house that I'm totally done with. I was so fascinated by this house in my early niche days. And again, kind of the first 2 or 3, 4, 5 things that I tried from this house, loved. And you know what? I actually still like a lot of them, but kind of everything since then is garbage. Number 5 is Tom Ford's private blend line. Now, some people argue that it's not a niche house, it's an exclusive house or it's a luxury brand or whatever, but, we regard it usually as niche due to the exclusivity, to the price, the ingredients, the quality, the craftsmanship, etc., etc. So that's why I'm putting it in here. But the first fragrance I tried was Noir de Noir, and it blew my mind. I was madly in love right away, and you know what? I still love it. I think Noir de Noir is one of the best kind of mainstream rose fragrances there is. It is exceptional. The second thing I tried, Amber Absolute, amazing fragrance. I still love it. It's one of the most dry, arid, resinous, potent ambers ever. Next, Italian Cypress, which I still think is an exceptionally classy, overlooked fragrance from the house. It's beautiful. I think it is so well done, and just really classy and luxurious smelling. Then I had samples of Moss Breche, Japan Noir, amazing. Both of them just, so far ahead of the game. There's fragrances that I've not tried that I've been dying to, Bois Marocain and Purple Patchouli. But basically what it seems like is all of the great Tom Ford fragrances are either dramatically reformulated, Noir de Noir, or discontinued altogether. And what they're putting out now is just appalling. These citrus fragrances, the Neroli Portofino and the Venetian Bergamot and all that garbage, it's just, they're taking cologne and putting it in a $250 bottle. It's just a crime against perfume what's happening in the Tom Ford house. Just releasing a new perfume like every couple weeks, and it's really low quality, it's really basic, it's really simple. It's just not catering to that niche market that it used to. It is, exploding and becoming bigger and bigger, and therefore, of course, they're trying to be more mainstream and accessible and trying to make fragrances that are going to get more, customers. So yeah, I think the Tom Ford, the great Tom Ford private blends, unfortunately, I think they're long gone now, which is sad because I think it was a really solid house back in the day. So anyways, there's my 5. Remember, no hate directed at anyone except perhaps the houses and the perfumers. But those are my 5. So I'd be interested to know, what do you think of my 5 picks? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are yours? Do you have any niche houses that you're just done with? You have no more interest? They've lost your patronage? I'd be interested to hear. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you again soon.